It literally snapped.
Editing Alana here. So, turns out the only footage I filmed for this intro is this super grainy clip of me yanking yarn out of my stash, which was not exactly the cinematic masterpiece I was hoping for. So I'm hopping in here to give you a proper rundown of the project and the yarn that I was using. The pattern I am using for this project is from a super cute Etsy shop called Autumn Leaflet. It's their monkey amigurumi pattern, and it's just absolutely adorable. I actually ended up gifting the finished monkey to a coworker who had just had their first baby. The nursery theme? Jungle. So obviously, monkey vibes were a must. For yarn, I went full Red Heart Super Saver, as is my modus operandi. The monkey is in the shades Cafe and Buff, and for the banana, because yes, of course, there's a banana, I used Aran, cornmeal, and coffee.
I have both of the eye pieces. They're going to get sewn together a little bit like this on the face. Oop. It's kind of trippy working with worsted yarn after doing a bunch of doilies, because to me, this is kind of like bulky yarn now, even though it's just worsted weight. The mouthpiece, all done.
This monkey pattern is a little unique because it asks you to sew the face on before you even stuffed the head. I'm a little concerned about this because it might look fine when you sew it on with no stuffing in it, but then as you stuff it, it could, because it's becoming like 2D and then becoming 3D as it's being flat and then getting stuffed. So I'm a little concerned that that could warp the face, but I do think not having to sew through a bunch of stuffing is like a benefit. But this is just very highly unusual. I've never seen a pattern call for this. Assembly is always post stuffing. Who knows, maybe I'll really like this. Maybe I will do this every time, but I just thought it was really interesting that they're asking me to sew it on before I stuffed it.
So this is how he turned out. I do think he's kind of cute. I did kind of enjoy the process of sewing with no stuffing in. I thought it was a very novel approach. I don't think it turned out as well as in the pattern picture. I really struggle with making things not a little lopsided, mostly because of the way the crochet tends to spiral. So I don't think it's 100% symmetrical. I tried to sew it on really, really well because I know that this will be going to a child. I'm going to be giving it to a coworker for the birth of their first children. Their nursery is jungle themed. And so I tried to sew it on really, really well. And then also like to keep in mind that like when we put stuffing in it, it will kind of stretch out a little bit. So I tried to make it so you can't see the stitches. I do think it's cute, and I think if you looked at it, you would think it's smiling and not like angry, which is my number one concern when making this.
It's stuffing time, and I have this bag of scraps that I'm going to use to stuff, along with some polyfill. So something that has never happened before just happened to me. Usually I pull my yarn super tight, so like when I'm making my magic circle, so that you can't see this like little hole bit, and I pulled on this yarn, the same yarn that I've been using this whole time, and it literally snapped. So now I have to start the magic circle over again, which is not too bad, but I guess my weightlifting routine has really been working out for me. Muscles are strong.
I finished the monkey's tail. The idea is it would curve like this and can be bendable. It's really thin, so I don't think there's any way that I'm going to be able to stuff this. So I purchased some pipe cleaners. They're actually called fuzzy sticks. They're really cheap. I want to say they're like $2. And these pipe cleaners are really close in color to the tail. And obviously it's not that big of a deal because it's going to be inside, but in case I peek through, I want them to be in the same color, and I wanted them to be fuzzy so you can kind of, you know, squish it still. It's still huggable, but also still bendable. I don't know how well this is going to work, but I'm going to try. So I've gone ahead and made all the parts of the monkey, except for there are supposed to be some hair bits. They look like this. They're supposed to be on top of the monkey, but I don't necessarily want to make them like they did. I want to crochet it directly into the top of the head of the monkey. So we're going to hold off on that for now. These are all the bits, plus there is an optional banana that you can make. So it's banana and then some peels, and so you're just going to sew that around the banana. Right now everything is pretty much like spaghetti because I haven't sewn anything together, but we have the tail, we have the two legs, the arms, the body, the head, the ears with their little circles that go inside the ears. I just kind of got to sew everything together and add some fluff, some polyfill. For those of you who are not in the know, for a magic circle, typically it starts with 4 single crochets, 6 single crochets, or 8 single crochets. Personally, I'm a 6 single crochet girl. I just think it tends to look the best. And I think 4 single crochets, like for example, this right here is 4 single crochets, the tail, and so is, I believe, the arms and maybe even the legs. I can't recall, but to me 4 single crochets are really, really difficult to deal with, and I just hate making things with that. It's just so fiddly. Like, I did the first arm and I just didn't want to do the second arm because I was like, oh, I hate doing 4 single crochets in the arm, but I guess that's what you gotta do because the arms are very small, and so is the tail, so you gotta do what you gotta do. It was just so fiddly. The tail especially, with like such a long narrow tube, it's just really hard to make myself do like that. But I'm gonna sew everything together and then I will show you the final result. I'm trying a new technique with this amigurumi where I close the limbs, like the arms and the legs, and I whip stitch them shut, and then I sew them on to the body just like this. Typically I leave them open and I sew in a circle, but this allows for an easier sew on process, an easier assembly process, because it's just one line you have to sew on as opposed to a whole shape. So this is kind of what the body looks like so far. In line with what the pattern had me do for the head, I'm sewing it with no stuffing in here, which is making it so much easier. And with the tail, the thing just stands up.